Fantasy TV in the 90s and 2000s was wild. Before the days of massive budgets and mainstream obsession, networks were taking bold risks. But while some of these fantasy shows became household names, others faded into obscurity, leaving behind only devoted fans and whispers of their greatness. So today we're bringing them back into the spotlight. That is why in this video we're diving into the 10 forgotten fantasy shows from the 90s and 2000s, the cult classics, the underrated gems, and the series that deserve way more love. And because we love a little order in our chaos, we'll be listing these fantasy treasures in chronological order. Roar. Before he was wreaking havoc in Gotham as the Joker, Heath Ledger was wielding swords and leading rebellions in Roar. Set in 5th century Ireland, this short-lived historical fantasy follows Prince Connor, a young warrior fighting to unite the Celtic tribes against the invading Romans and dark supernatural forces. But Roar wasn't just about clashing swords, it blended mythology and magic by featuring druids, mystical relics, and an immortal villain named Longinus. Yes, the same Longinus who stabbed Jesus with a lance. With epic battles, tragic love stories, and a sweeping fantasy backdrop, Roar had all the makings of a cult classic. It may have been short-lived, but it's a forgotten 90s fantasy epic that's well worth rediscovering. Brimstone. What happens when you take a classic deal with the devil story and turn it into a supernatural detective noir? You get Brimstone. Ezekiel Stone was a disgraced New York cop sent to hell after murdering his wife's attacker. But when 113 damned souls escape back to Earth, the devil offers him a way out. Hunt them down, send them back to where they belong, and maybe, just maybe, he'll earn a second chance at life on Earth. Armed with mystical tattoos that burn off with every soul he recaptures, Stone prowls the streets in a battle for redemption. Dark, stylish, and way ahead of its time, Brimstone was a hidden supernatural gem that deserved far more than just one season. BeastMaster. Long before fantasy TV took over pop culture, BeastMaster roared onto screens with swords, sorcery, and a whole lot of shirtless heroism. Loosely based on the cult classic BeastMaster film series, this late 90s fantasy adventure follows Dar, a warrior with a unique gift. He could communicate with animals. Armed with this ability and a badass sword, Dar embarks on a journey to find his lost love and protect the balance of nature from evil forces. Sure, it had its fair share of 90s cheese, but that was part of its undeniable charm. And with 3 seasons of sword fighting, epic quests, and an over-the-top villain named Balsifer, BeastMaster carved out its place as an underrated fantasy classic. Dead Like Me. Death is inevitable, but who knew the afterlife came with a day job? Meet George Lass, an 18-year-old college dropout who dies in a freak accident involving a toilet seat falling from space. But instead of crossing over, she finds herself recruited as a Grim Reaper, tasked with guiding souls to the afterlife, while also working a dead-end job to pay for rent. Alongside a quirky team of fellow Reapers, George navigates the bureaucracy of death while dealing with her own unresolved issues from life. Dead Like Me gave us one of the wittiest and weirdest takes on the afterlife, mixing dry humor, existential crises, and heart into a refreshingly offbeat dramedy that made contemplating mortality oddly hilarious. Carnivàle. Few shows have ever felt as hauntingly immersive as Carnivàle, HBO's dark fantasy series that wove together mysticism, biblical prophecy, and the dust-covered grit of Depression-era America. At the heart of the story is Ben Hawkins, a young farmer with strange healing powers who joins a traveling carnival, only to discover he's part of a much larger cosmic battle between good and evil. Meanwhile, brother Justin Crowe, a charismatic yet sinister preacher, begins gathering followers, setting the stage for an inevitable clash of fate. Despite its rich lore and eerie atmosphere, HBO pulled the plug after 2 seasons, leaving fans with more questions than answers. But even today, its surreal, visually stunning world makes Carnivàle one of the most unique fantasy dramas ever made. Maddigan's Quest. In a post-apocalyptic world where civilization has crumbled, one traveling circus isn't just putting on a show, it's fighting to keep hope alive. Maddigan's Quest follows 14-year-old Garland, a member of Maddigan's Fantasia, a troupe of performers who double as a heroic band of wanderers. Their mission is far bigger than just dazzling audiences. They must find a new power source for their city that will save their home. Along the way, Garland and her fellow performers face bandits, bizarre threats, and even time travelers who hold the key to an ominous prophecy. This uniquely ambitious New Zealand fantasy series combined fun action, unique world building, and an adventurous spirit that made it feel like a breath of fresh air. Fallen. Angels, destiny, and a teenage identity crisis. Fallen took the classic Chosen One trope and gave it a supernatural twist. Based on Tom Sniegoski's The Fallen book series, the show follows Aaron Corbett, an ordinary teenager who, on his 18th birthday, discovers he's actually half human, half angel. Cue the newfound powers, ancient prophecies, and a whole lot of celestial drama. Now on the run from warrior angels who see him as an abomination, Aaron must embrace his destiny as the Redeemer, the only being who can return fallen angels to heaven, all while trying to save himself and the girl he loves. With mythology-infused storytelling and a reluctant hero at its core, Fallen delivered an action-packed supernatural saga that deserved more time in the spotlight. The Dresden Files. Before urban fantasy became a staple of TV, the Dresden Files brought magic, mystery, and a wisecracking wizard detective to our screens. Based on Jim Butcher's beloved book series, the show centers on Harry Dresden, a Chicago-based private investigator who just so happened to be a wizard. His cases range from supernatural threats to dark magic and everyday crimes involving vampires, werewolves, and ghosts. Though it lasted only one season, the Dresden Files packed in all the ingredients of a great supernatural noir: solid world building, magical mayhem, and a modern-day hero who never shied away from danger. If you're like us and are still obsessed with urban fantasy, it might just be time to revisit this underrated adaptation. Moonlight. Vampires were everywhere in the 2000s, and Moonlight gave us one of the most underrated takes on the genre. This supernatural drama follows Mick St. John, a charming vampire private investigator in Los Angeles, as he balances solving crimes, navigating vampire politics, and struggling with his feelings for Beth, a mortal journalist he secretly saved as a child. Unlike other vampires, though, Mick has a conscience, refusing to hunt humans and using his abilities to help people instead. Moonlight's broody lead, and Mick and Beth's will they won't they romance, stole the audience's hearts and made the series a cult favorite. And even now, years later, the show holds up as a hidden gem of the 2000s, offering a stylish and romantic take on sexy vampire dramas. Legend of the Seeker. Epic quests, sword fights, and a dash of magic, Legend of the Seeker had everything a fantasy fan could ask for. Based on the Sword of Truth series by Terry Goodkind, the show focuses on Richard Cypher, a humble woodsman who discovers he's the prophesied Seeker, destined to defeat the ruthless tyrant Darken Rahl. With the help of the fierce and powerful Kaelin Omnell and the wise yet delightfully eccentric wizard Zed, Richard embarks on a journey to master his abilities, fulfill his destiny, and take down the forces of darkness. Despite building a dedicated fan base, Legend of the Seeker ended far too soon. But with its rich world building, sweeping adventure, and a perfect mix of magic, romance, and heroism, it's still a must-watch for fans of high fantasy. Do you agree with our picks for these forgotten fantasy gems of the 90s and 2000s? Are there any series you'd like to add to this list? Let us know in the comments. Check out TVShowPilot.com for articles on all your favorite shows. And don't forget to subscribe to the TV Show Pilot YouTube channel for more videos like this.